Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Sustainable Supply Chain Podcast. My name is Tom Raftery, and with me on the show today, I have my special guest, Marcus. Marcus, welcome to the podcast. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi Tom, how are you? I hope all is well. I'm Marcus Hoed, co-founder, co-owner of DutchX, the largest tech-enabled sustainable delivery company in the United States.
Okay, great. So, Marcus, you're based in the United States. Obviously, the company's name is DutchX. Your name is Marcus Hood, and you do not have a New York accent. I'm guessing there's a story there somewhere.
Yeah, I'm born and raised in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam, moved to New York. What is it? Almost 20 years ago. So I don't know where I am, somewhere maybe in the Atlantic. I'm still not New York and I'm not Dutch anymore. But yes, I'm originally from the Netherlands, so I'm Dutch.
And is that the reason for the company name?
That's the reason for the company name. I think it has multiple reasons. First of all, as I grew up in the Netherlands, I grew up with, of course, as we all know, with bikes. I probably could ride a bike before I could even walk. So that's one big side of it. I think that the logistics in the Netherlands with the largest world port is something that we grow up
Mhm.
with, which we learn from a very young age. Supply chain and logistics is even a subject in high school if you want to choose it.
Wow.
It's kind of an AP.
Okay.
So yeah, so from those perspectives, we thought that Dutch X would be the right name.
Nice, nice. And I mean, you gave a very high level summary there when you were doing the intro, but tell me a little bit more. What is it that DutchX does?
So we provide mid-mile and last mile solutions for retailers, e-commerce platforms, and grocery deliveries. We do everything in a sustainable manner, as well as the mid-mile, as well as the last mile. We are utilizing, especially for our last mile, multiple different solutions, which can be e-cargo bikes, which can be e-quads, which can be events. And then from our mid-mile perspective, it all depends on distance, which kind, and of course, volume, which kind of vehicle we would be using. We're not just this logistics company like everybody envisions it, as this is quite new and it's a very fast growing area. We are partnering very closely with our clients to find the best solution, and of course at the end the best cost solution for the client, because at the end, yes, we want to be green, we want to think about the earth, sustainability, etc., but we also have to make sure that we can offer a price competitive rate. And then on the other side, we have our tech platform, as we want to make sure that we are performing on the highest level. We created our own proprietary technology, which is really based on, honestly, the entire supply chain of an employee, which means from the moment we hire them or even before hiring them, all the way to something we hope never happen, to offboarding, and measuring within their performance, their availability, their efficient scheduling, but also the entire training program is all rolled out in our technology.
Interesting. Okay, cool. Now, you talked about e bikes, e cargo bikes, e vans, and e quads. I mean, e bike, straightforward enough. E cargo bike, a little bit more. I mean, I know what an e cargo bike is. Some people listening might not. An e quad, e van is simple enough. What's an e quad? What are the differences? When do you decide to do a bike versus a cargo bike versus an e quad versus a van, an e van?
So I think there are a couple of pieces in this. So the e-bike, of course, it's mostly very small parcels, very fast deliveries, which we're utilizing mostly in our on-demand market. Then we have the e-bike in combination, and we call this the cargo bike, the e-bike in combination with a bike trailer, or the more traditional old school cargo bikes with the box in the front or the box in the back. Those we are utilizing for cargo and routing. But again, it all depends on the size of the package, the volume, the weight, the area, the density. of those particular areas. And then the latest news thing is, which came on the market, I would say approximate like a year and a half ago, is the eQuad. The eQuad is it gives the same look and feel like a small, very small van,
Mhm.
but it's bike operated. It has four wheels. It has a very large cargo and load capacity, which can carry, because of this, also higher weights, which is in our industry extremely important, because the longer we can send our delivery associates out on a route, the more products they can carry, the more efficient we get. And at the end, the lower cost per delivery there is.
Sure.
Now, even I don't think I have to explain exactly what that is.
And what is the availability of these like for you, not for your customers, but for you for getting a supply of them, for example, because e-bikes sure have started to take off recently, but I can't imagine getting the likes of e-vans, e-quads, or even e-cargo bikes in the US is straightforward.
So the e-bikes with cargo is quite easy to get. There is quite a large amount of availability there. If you take e-quads, there are at the moment a couple of manufacturers who are really trying to develop with the latest technology and the safest and the best solutions out there, because safety at the end is key to run an efficient operation. And besides an efficient operation, also the safety of the employee is for us key and very, very important. If you look at the availability, there is plenty available, and I think that we for currently don't see any challenges there. Events is also not so challenging. It's more on the e-trucking side, where currently the availability is more limited. And besides the limitations there, there's also still kind of a distance challenge in there. I don't know if you hear in the background, but you can hear I'm really in New York City. So I'm not just saying no. But from the e-truck perspective, there is a little bit more challenges. The pricing is still extremely high. The mileage they can drive is also more limited, as we have many warehouses where we are operating, or 3PLs where we are operating with out in Pennsylvania, and even some of them are even more south than Pennsylvania from New York. You can see that some of them can just not do the distance with one battery, but the availability is currently not so much of a challenge.
Okay, good. And I'm glad you mentioned safety because that was going to be the next question. The cyclists that you have working for you on your team, is cycling in American cities safe? I know it is in the Netherlands, no problem. I'm based in Seville and I moved here in 2008. And when I was moving here at that time, they were building out the cycling infrastructure for the city. And the bicycle lanes, the bike lanes here in Seville are all physically separated from the road. So if you're driving a car and you wanted to hit a cyclist for whatever malicious reason, you would destroy your car trying to do so. You know, the physical separation is such. So cycling here is very safe. What's it like in American cities?
Let's say I think that all the cities are at the moment having a huge focus on the safety aspect. Infrastructure is getting better and better and better. I remember when we started DutchX, there was not so much infrastructure. I will give you a little bit of the history, and it's a very interesting history for where we are now and where we are coming from.
Great.
When we started the company, we imported Dutch traditional cargo bikes, which is called the bakfiets, which was very hard. It was hardly available in the United States, and relatively it was very costly. When we imported them, we started to realize that these cargo bikes were absolutely not holding it in New York City traffic. There were no bike lanes at that time.
Yeah.
Parts were also not available. So besides that, we had to import the parts also from the Netherlands. There were no mechanics who could maintain and repair those cargo bikes. So also there we had certain challenges. I think, it was a great lesson, but we thought that we should have thought it a little bit better, true, but we didn't. But let's say like this, I think from there also we learned a lot. So we decided very rapidly to stop that operation and switch from there into a biker model in combination with walkers and very limited amount of vehicles. These bikers were more like the cool bikers who everybody always sees in all these movies, these very fast couriers who are going from somewhere midtown Manhattan to downtown Manhattan in 12 minutes. And everybody's asking themselves, how do they do this? There were at that time no trackers and everything else. So we were like, wow, this is really incredible. Till we started to realize that they were holding on cars. They were not even having brakes. They were balancing at the traffic light to go everything as fast as possible, which is very fascinating, but not for us because again, safety is key.
Sure.
From there, we slowly transitioned to a bigger and broader walker model and vehicle model because we had just no choice. But then back in 2018, 19, you started to see the new cargo bikes. And I think the DOT and the city of New York, and not only New York, Boston, Miami, San Francisco, Los Angeles, they all started to think about how can we, from a city perspective, can make the infrastructure better. And I think there can still be many improvements, but if you compare for where it's coming from, it became much and much and much and much better. And from there, we were also able to roll out different kind of e-bike solutions and do this in a safety manner. I also want to touch on the e-biker himself, the person who does the deliveries. It's something very different to be a commuter, to ride a bike from A to B, go from home to office or go from home to friends or anything than doing cargo bike deliveries. Cargo bike deliveries, you're out on a route. These routes normally are around, and it fluctuates from 2.5 to 4 hours at one container, which means that normally they're out going out twice to 3 times a day. So at the end, you're out on the road for about 8 hours, which is a very different mindset than riding your bike as a commuter or even somebody who will do it to exercise.
Sure.
So for us, the key and the start of everything what we did was building this amazing training program. And it's not only just a training program. Before you get hired by DutchX or get a proposed hiring proposal, you go through a bike test and to really ride a bike to see, are you capable and able to do this? And this has nothing to do with from a physical perspective, because they have the support with the e-battery, but this is more from a safety perspective and a liability perspective. And from
And
there,
just to
then
clarify, Marcus,
sorry.
I just wanted to clarify something there. You say the bikers you're using are employees, so it's not a gig economy kind of thing. You're actually employing these bikers full time.
Correct. We are a fully employee-based organization. We want to perform on the highest level. We want to control our performance very, very, very tight. And to do this, besides all the labor laws, by the way, because cargo is not the same as doing food delivery or restaurant deliveries, we have to be in a W-2 environment.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And so you've got these bikers that you're hiring. They're full-time employees. They're doing deliveries around the city. Which cities are you operating in currently, and what are your plans for expansion?
So we're currently in New York City. We are expanding to Boston. The goal was the end of Q1. It looks like it's going to roll out in the beginning of Q2. Pennsylvania will be the end of Q2. And then we have for third quarter to fourth quarter of this year, we're now identifying strategic locations within Miami and the Washington, D.C. area. For us, it's key to be in a strategic areas because to utilize e-quads or e-bikes or e-cargo bikes, we have to be positioning our ALCs, our access logistics centers, extremely strategically, because at the end, they can only ride an approximate 4-mile radius around 4 to 5 mile radius around our ALCs, because we have, of course, battery limitations as well.
Sure. And who are your typical customers and what is it that they're moving?
Our typical customers are very varying from, as I mentioned before, groceries, but also we have a lot of fashion clients, e-commerce clients. Let's call them house goods, home goods. What is it? House goods,
Sure.
products, who can be bought through or e-commerce or directly from retailers.
Okay, so I could be on a website if I was based in New York, order some kind of mixer from a website from a retailer, and they choose your company to have it put on a bike to have it delivered to me. Is the idea that it gets there more quickly with DutchX? Or is it that they want to do it for sustainability purposes? Or is it some other reason?
I think it is a mix of both. Sustainability is key for a lot of our clients. This is really their goal for 2024, 25, and 26. But we're also extremely transparent in our supply chain. When you take some of our competition out there, the UPS and the FedEx of this world, you will get, hopefully, probably a notification. It's on its way and it will come somewhere today.
Sure.
We give the transparency already on a much earlier stage of when you can anticipate to expect it with a real-time ETA. We just feel that transparency for consumers is very, very, very important
Yeah.
to see where is my baggage, when can I anticipate to receive it, because it helps a lot. That also being said again, the sustainable piece by the emission savings that we create in the cities and in the United States is huge. Take New York now as an example. I live myself in New York the last couple of years. I love Four Seasons, but that's me. There are many people who don't like it. We don't really experience this anymore like the way it used to be back in the day. And this is something that we all, and I mean really all of us from on a governmental level all the way to consumer level, have to work on to think about the environment.
Yeah. Do your bikers have trouble going out in extreme weather conditions? How does that work?
So yes, we operate 365 days a year. We follow the, let's say like this, weather indications. If like poor weather or bad weather is anticipated on, we can adjust the delivery speed of the delivery associate by adjusting their amount of anticipated deliveries per hour. So with this, they can go more carefully and slower. Of course, there are weather conditions that we can just not operate, but that's not only just us. This is the entire mid-mile and last-mile delivery system in the United States. That's also the moment that we would not operate. You see now some bike manufacturers who are coming out with weather tires for
Hmm.
poor weather, snow conditions, etc. So, and again, yes, we are a W2 environment, but if a delivery associate or an employee will come to us and tell us, I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel safe. Our pool of delivery associates is so extremely large that we would not put him at risk or whatsoever in that way.
Okay, nice.
But till now, I think in the last 3 years, if I remember it well, I don't think there was one day that we didn't operate.
Oh, fantastic. Great. And if I am a DutchX customer and I'm interested in what my carbon savings have been by utilizing your services versus a FedEx or a DHL or another company, do you have a way of reporting that to me that I can then, report out to organizations that are interested in my carbon footprint?
So we do this on two levels. We do this on a consumer level and a customer level. So we see the e-commerce site or the fashion platform or whoever our direct customer is
Hmm.
as our customer, and then we see their clients as the consumer. So we can provide as well as the customer as well as the consumer on a weekly base, on a monthly base, however they would like it, their emission savings. The part to our customers is more based on a real number. Let's call it 1 million savings. While on a consumer level, we translate it to trees. Because what we have seen and heard in the markets is most consumers, you can give them numbers, but they don't know what does this number entails. Well, if you translate it to the amount of trees they will be saving, this is understandable. So, which ultimately means that you, Tom, if you will order to some of the platforms, where we would provide the deliveries. You will get on and this is all discussed, of course, with our customers on a monthly base, a report. You ordered in this month from A, B, C, D. The last mile has been done by DutchX in this case, and you saved by this 200 trees. I don't know how much you order online, but I just give here a number, and then to the customers themselves, so to the e-commerce
Mhm.
platforms, to the fashion accounts, to the grocery infrastructure accounts, we give them a real number with emission reports because it can be for them financial savings, and it can entail much more.
Sure, sure, sure. And do you also do reverse logistics?
So yes, we do forward and reverse logistics, as we have so many delivery associates out on the street every single day. We are able to route them and schedule within their routing system to pick up and deliver it back to one of our ALCs, and at the end return it back to the customer.
Okay. And in the prep call we had, you mentioned using waterways as a kind of a new arm to your business, as it were. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and explain how that works?
Yes, of course. So we are trying as we can everything we can to reduce the emission, but also congestions in New York City. So we are working very closely with all the governmental institutions here in New York to start bringing let's call it the last mid-mile piece. So bringing the parcels to New York City with the waterways and utilizing their or existing or new building out infrastructure. And we are waiting for the approval for the parcels we want to bring in, but we are ready already with certain clients who are extremely interested, and we're getting more and more customers who are reaching out to us for can we be part of this? Can we be part of this? To start testing these new models. We have built them all out. We are ready to go. It's now waiting for the Coast Guard to sign off on it.
Okay, nice, nice. It occurs to me as well, and it's not something you mentioned, so maybe it's not the case, but are any governmental agencies customers? Because if I'm thinking that, I'm thinking they should want to be reducing their emissions, and your platform would seem like an ideal way to do it. But maybe they have other solutions, or maybe they're not aware, or maybe they're not interested, or I don't know. Do you have governmental customers?
At the moment, no. I think it's a very interesting point you bring up, but no, we don't.
Okay, short answer.
Yeah, it's interesting because I work myself very closely with all the governmental institutions, and I think that they are ready. They built everything out together with us, and also, of course, from their own perspective, they started to utilize themselves. For example, the DOT started to utilize some equats themselves to test them and to utilize them for their own infrastructure, but they are not utilizing companies like ours yet to help them. We just give them the data, the information, etc., to see how this is going to work in a much broader scale.
Okay. Okay. And you mentioned you had created your own technology platform and that you're a tech enabled platform. Talk to me a little bit about the functionality that you've built into that platform, how it helps your organization be more automated and be more efficient, and how that works for your customers as well.
So first of all, for the customers, the biggest perspective here is, of course, the full transparency of the mid mile and the last mile. But from an employee perspective, I think it is really revolutionary because what we have been doing is building out this platform in a way where delivery associates, they became, especially during COVID, the gig worker was the new trend,
Sure.
and everybody wanted to work when they wanted to work, and they didn't want to rely on a schedule that was provided by an employer. They wanted to work when they could potentially be when they wanted to be available.
Mm.
With our platform, we built this model in a way that it gives them the feeling and the look of being a gig worker, but they work in a W-2 environment. What means that they can choose their own shifts.
Okay.
We have unexpected influx in volume, which means that because we have such a broad amount of employees within our database, they can pick up a shift last minute, potentially, if of course the volume is there.
Mm.
From an employer perspective, we build out in certain cases 24, 30 shift structures per day. Why we want to be as efficient as possible, because in a W2 environment, to have employees idling is extremely costly. By creating many different shift structures and start and end times during a day, you reduce let's call it our internal congestion
Mm.
by having employees waiting for their container or for their e-bike and e-quad to go out on to do their deliveries. And this is of course at the end a cost savings to as well as the consumer, as well as our customers. Besides this, it's also measure their performance. And we're not, because I don't like to be with employees in a competition, but it shows them where they stand, not just against the expectations of the company.
Hmm.
I can expect from you, Tom, you're going to do 20 deliveries per hour, 30 deliveries per hour. But is this realistic? I can expect as a company whatever I want. But this platform also shows them where does Tom stand comparable to all his peers within the DutchX organization, which shows them like I'm a good employee, I'm a bad employee,
Mm.
or I can do better, or wherever it stands. It's the same like products who arrive damaged, which who never reach the end customer. Who there are many within the last mile delivery. There are many measure points. We measure the performance and also what are the expectations of the customer itself, because we have with many of our customers we have SLAs in place, which is on which level we need to perform. And by giving this information and data to our employees, you just see an increase of their performance because nobody wants to be on the bottom of that list.
Sure.
So this, and if you do something wrong, so let's say you are as an employee, you have more damaged packages than, for example, your peers, you will think by yourself, how can I do this better? Or they will reach out to our ops team, or our ops team will reach out to them already directly and say, we have to work on something because this is not working this way. What are you doing wrong? And let's work on this together. And let's find a way that we don't have the amount of damaged packages, but to make them aware of it and see that we as a company are tracking and tracing this, we see some really big improvements of our performance. The other part is that as we have many different clients have many different kind of expectations. And because our entire learning process is also on this platform, if we open a new account tomorrow and they have certain expectations from or the mid-mile driver, and this is especially more on the mid-mile driver side, but let's say the mid-mile driver or even within the last mile, we can add this easily to our training program, which can be reached out to all our employees. And we also track and trace who follow the training program, etc., which means that they are, I don't want to call it certified because that's a
Sure.
really heavy word, but that they are trained to run this particular operation and that they know what they need to do. So that's another aspect. And then the last part is that we also have our entire payroll structure and tip structure also built within our platform. Transparency, because we have certain clients who give us tips. We also have a lot who don't, but we have many customers or consumers who do give tips. And by creating this transparency, they get a better idea of how much tips they're making. It's an additional income. So they're not working for X dollar per hour. No, it's X dollar per hour plus tips. And by providing this transparency, you feel them also more committed and delivering on a higher level.
Nice. 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 Where to next for DutchX? I know you've already mentioned some of the cities you're moving to, but what are your plans for like 5 years time?
So 5 years time is to create an infrastructure who can cover the entire United States. Also the more less dense areas, because in our trajectory for the coming 2-3 years are mostly, let's call it middle to higher dense cities, but to build it out in a broader network, to build out further our technology platform and try to find as many solutions as we can to get as many trucks, vehicles possible from the streets of the United States.
Great, great, good. We're coming towards the end of the podcast now, Marcus. Is there any question I didn't ask that you wish I had, or any aspect of this we haven't touched on that you think it's important for people to think about?
I think that from everything, I don't think there's a particular question. I really hopefully believe and strongly believe that every citizen in the United States should find and think about ways, and it can be very, very, very minimal, to save and see how we can save the environment. And it can start with separating your garbage to as far as you want to get it. We all know that some of the more sustainable products, we just started with using sustainable garbage bags. They're recycled garbage bags. They're more expensive than the traditional ones.
Yeah.
So we understand very clear that we're not already there yet, but every little piece we can do to help the environment, to save the world, to do better for our kids, grandkids, etc. Think that fully true and do whatever you can.
Yeah, great point. If people would like to know more about yourself, Marcus, or any of the things we discussed on the podcast today, where would you have me direct them?
You can send them directly to me or to the rest of the team, like Kim or Chloe. Please, any questions. We also would love to hear feedback from the consumers and from the customers, because it will only get us better and keep us improving and grow through a bigger network.
And is that via email? Do you have an email address that people should reach out on?
Yes, my email address is mhoed, which is MHOED, @DutchX.com.
Fantastic. Marcus, that's been really interesting. Thanks a million for coming on the podcast today.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you.